I cannot believe how hard it has been so far to try and get guests for a podcast, considering I've now got a little bit of a following on all of these platforms. I would have thought, oh, actually, yeah, this is going to be good exposure. I thought I'd be able to get guests like that. People would say, yeah, cool, yeah, I'm going to come in. I thought it would be no problem, super easy, and that has very, very much not been the case. The Elliot Forbes Show is sponsored by Johnny's Chop Shop. We're in Johnny's Chop Shop right now in Soho in London. Johnny's Chop Shop is a product brand which is born out of London and New York. It's a global brand. They sell hair products. We obviously have the barber shop upstairs. My go-to products are the matte paste, the sea salt spray, and then if I need to have, when my hair's getting a little bit longer and I need to set it in place, I tend to use a little bit of the hairspray. Great products, something I've been using now for a long time. If you head onto the website, you'll get a 20% discount on the entire range. There's actually the Elliot's Edit bundle, which is on the website as well. You can go check that out and you can go get a little bit more of a discount if you buy that bundle there as well. So what is going on the wall today is actually the very first pair of scissors which I got when I joined the London School of Barbering 6 years ago. So I got these on the very first day. I can't tell you how excited I was on that first day to get all of the tools. Now, like when I was playing golf or when I was at home, I used to love getting like new golf clubs. I used to go onto all of like these different forums in America and find out what all the different tour players were using, because it wasn't super easy to find out what everyone was using or what everyone had or different tools that they had, because back in the day, obviously, without social media, you just weren't aware of it. So you had to go onto these forums. I remember the one I would go to was called Golf WRX, Golf Works, and it had these people that would go to the tournaments. They would take sort of like little spy pictures of what the players were using. Whereas now, anything that's sort of come out, the whole world knows about it instantly. And also the brands, manufacturers want everyone to know all about straight away what is being put out of there. Whereas back in the day, it was a little bit more scarce. They were doing a little bit more testing about it. I've always loved trying to find out like little nuances and, why they're using that one, and trying to get ahead of the curve and trying to find more than what, say, someone else didn't know. And I think that also went through with music as well. I've always thought about like trying to find undiscovered bands and bands which I hadn't heard of. And I used to love telling people about, have you heard this album or have you heard this band? I always like tried to do that. I guess a little bit in the last few years it's waned and that's changed a little bit because I guess I've focused on other things, but definitely used to do that in the past. And so when I went to that first day at the London School of Barbering, I was so excited to open all these tools. We've got this first pair of scissors, which this is a 6-inch pair. It's like a black powder coated pair, Japanese stainless steel with this little gold tension wheel. It's not gold, is it? It looks gold. Little tension wheel on there to make it, well, tighter or looser. And I think, so what you're supposed to do is just to drop it to a quarter open, I think, and then it should, so that's actually, these are a little bit too loose, you can see there now. That drops too quickly. It should just fall to the bottom and just kiss it. But actually, the thread on this is gone. You can't even tighten this up anymore. So that's how worn out these scissors are. And also, they were just basic beginner ones. But I remember got these, and I remember on the first day, when you're cutting hair, you're supposed to move your bottom thumb, your thumb on the bottom. You're supposed to just move that, and the hand is not supposed to move at all. So you're trying to keep this blade as still as possible and just move that thumb. I remember being told that on that first day, and I'd say for that entire course, because I just moved down to London. I was here completely by myself. I had no one really to entertain me in the evenings. I would get up in the morning, went straight to the gym. I would then go. Actually, I was staying in Haringey, and it was this great house that I was in. Actually, it was a couple called Ted and, oh my God, what's their name? Ted, and they had this little lad, and I had a room. It was through Airbnb, and at this point, Airbnb was cheaper than it was trying to get in a hotel, or actually, it was even cheaper than renting. But I had this brilliant little room within theirs, and then access to the rest of the house. And I would go. So they was on Haringey Lane, which is the nearest tube station was Wood Green, which is North London. I would then get up first thing in the morning there, walk up the road to what was it called? To Wood Green. So what was the tube station? The tube station where I was Manor House. I would walk up then to Wood Green, which, if I'm being honest, that was a little bit sketchy and a little bit dodgy. There was definitely a few times where I didn't feel the most comfortable around there. But I would go up there, I went to Easy Gym. I would then go in there, do like this massive workout. And at this point, I was really working out heavy and like big time into it. So it was like a big non-negotiable. I remember going working out there, straight back to the flat, walking back, shower there, get onto the tube after 9:30 so that I didn't pay the extra money so I paid like for the off-peak rates, and then would head into town and school would start at 10:30. We'd get in there, and I think we'd be warming up, and they'd be briefing us on the day, and then 11 o'clock would when the first models would turn up, and we'd be going from there. I remember on the first day, them telling us about that. So in the evenings, I would then go from there. For the first couple of weeks, I didn't actually, because it was about the third or fourth week where Ruffians, I then was doing the work experience, where I'd finish the college, then go there in the evening and sweep the floors and make the coffee and do that for free in the spare time. But then after that, I remember sitting in this bedroom. There was no TV and anything there. I didn't have an iPad, or I didn't even have a laptop at that time to even like watch Netflix or anything like that. And that wasn't anywhere near as accessible as what it is now. But I remember just sat on the bed just for hours, just going boom, 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 and just watching that blade. And I remember this muscle, which I had in through here, was ache like absolute crazy. And I think if you want to try and master something, or if you want to try and get good at something and really turn it into so you actually master it and know it, you've got to put hours into something, haven't you? And I think I spent hours and hours, especially during those first 9 weeks of using these scissors, just moving that. And I think that definitely paid off and made a big difference with that, of like actually how clean the cuts were, and it's just like that discipline, having that discipline of, right, I'm going to do this and commit to trying to learn this skill. And it's a very basic thing, isn't it? And it's obviously incredibly monotonous. But I think having that sort of drive and that sort of consistency to do that definitely stands you in good stead. And I think it's just a good rule for life, isn't it? Where if you want to do something, if you want to get better at something, you've just got to do it a lot. And okay, yes, practice doesn't make perfect, but it makes permanent, doesn't it? And the more time that you do something, the better you definitely do get it if you're working in the right direction. And that is going to go up on the wall. So actually, as I'm sure we're all aware, the wall is getting a little bit cluttered at the moment on these shelves. So we're actually going to be getting some more shelving units on here where we can then actually put some other things on there, because we definitely don't want it to get too cluttered now, do we? I'm actually in pretty good spirits at the moment. This morning, I did a class with Kasia, did one Rebel, did it at the Covent Garden place. The instructor was really great. We'd done her classes before and I wasn't a mad fan of her, but actually today was a great class. I actually felt so full of energy doing the workout, and I actually felt for the first time in a long time as though I had a really good workout. Felt like I could really push myself. And I think when I have a great workout anyway, I know I feel like I have even more energy then. That gives me more energy, and I felt like I could really push myself. I got a great sweat on. I felt like my heart was really pounding. I'll tell you what's something I'm really missing. So it would be over a year ago. Actually, it was about a month before the wedding last year. I smashed my Apple Watch. It fell actually from a gym locker, fell onto the bit where you sit, and then smashed completely. And since then, I haven't had a watch. And because I sort of said, yeah, I'm going to go and buy an Apple Watch. I just haven't got around to doing it. But now the new Apple Watch has been released. I'm going to get that because I really missed out today, or I've missed out over the last year, not seeing like my heart rate, not seeing like what the training zone is that I'm in, how much I'm pushing, and seeing all of those things. I think that's really helped in the past when I've looked at those. So actually this week I'm going to go and buy or try and order one of the new ones as well, because I really missed that. I'd be really interested to see today what sort of my heart rate got up to, and I'd be interested to know like what the sleep was last night, or like how the recovery was yesterday, or what happened that made me then feel as though I could have a better workout today. Because today it was great. Had a great workout, showered, and then came over to the shop, got a couple of things prepared, and then had the Formula One on. So I've been in here watching we've just finished watching the Formula One race in Monza. Just watched Verstappen win, and if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see my race prediction: Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, and I said that De Vries was going to have a great race. I got all four. So after I finish recording this podcast, I'm actually just going to nip to the corner shop and I'm going to go and buy a few scratch cards because I'm feeling very lucky right now at this moment. So got the prediction absolutely nailed on. But my God, Verstappen is just in a world of his own, isn't he? And that Red Bull car, the way that he can drive that Red Bull car. Obviously, Perez is nowhere near the level of what Verstappen is, but how quick he and how in sync with that car he is. It's incredible to see someone that is that dominating. It's bizarre to watch Ferrari of just how fast that car was at the start of the year, and now seeing, well, they were at one point they were over 25 points ahead well, Leclerc was 25 points ahead of Verstappen, and now just seeing the gap. I mean, what is it? It's like 113 points at the moment. I mean, it's one of the largest gaps in Formula One history in the championship. So, like, I mean, there's, I think, 7 races left. Singapore is the next race, and it looks like Verstappen is going to win the champion, or could win the championship there with that many races left of a season. It's just absolutely obscene, but incredible to watch someone so in control and so dominant and great at what they do. I love watching greatness. And although I'm not a massive Hamilton fan, I would have loved to have watched him win that title last year and get the 8th one, where you're watching history and someone that is just clearly amazing at what they do. When you can watch someone and take inspiration, even if you don't like them, or if you don't have a even if you don't connect with that person, you can definitely learn a lot and appreciate someone that has clearly dedicated their life and is just so skilled at what they do. And again today from De Vries, watching him that first time that he's qualified, first time that he's gone into a race, didn't even know until Saturday morning that he was even going to be racing for Williams, to then go and absolutely embarrass Nicholas Latifi is incredible. And that just goes to show the real negative side of Formula One, is the way I look at that. That this young lad, Nick De Vries, clearly incredibly talented, but hasn't got the money, hasn't got the funding, or for whatever reason hasn't made it to the level he needs to get to. Yet Latifi has been in the sport now for 3 years. This is the end of his third season. And now after De Vries coming in and scoring 2 points, Nicholas Latifi is now going to be 21st in a 20-driver season, which is just absolutely crazy, isn't it? And it feels upsetting that is the way that the sport is, because really it should be, well, I say it should be based on merit. Yes, it should be, but also if you bring sponsors, that is also incredibly valuable. But there has to be, you've got to be very good at the sport, haven't you? And clearly De Vries is, and we've demonstrated over the last 3 years that realistically Latifi isn't good enough, especially when they would, I mean, De Vries started 8th, Latifi started 10th, and the fact of then basically De Vries kept where he was and was steadying around there, and just instantly from the first lap, second lap, third lap, Latifi is just working his way down the field. And it's a real shame to see that, but amazing to see the incredible drive of De Vries and seeing how that he's done that. Again, incredibly disappointing by Daniel Ricciardo. And it's, I mean, it just, obviously that this wasn't his fault necessarily with the car breaking down, but it really feels to me now as though he's going to be out of the sport and that's him gone now for good. A real shame to see. I think he's got by, and I think a real fan favourite because of his smile and because of how nice a person he is. I think if this was someone else, whoever else, I think if this was, say, I think if this was Bottas, for example, where kind of like a placid character, if he'd have done this at Red Bull and then kind of just done this, nobody would be thinking and having a go at McLaren saying, oh, you're being so out of order to him, like doing this. It's just because McLaren, it's just because Ricciardo is such a nice guy and such a prominent character, and he's obviously been well loved within the Drive to Survive community, that the people are slating McLaren and talking about him this way. But realistically, he just hasn't delivered, has he? And I think now he's on his way out for sure. But then after the race, I actually had a really interesting 40-minute conversation / interview with someone that is potentially going to be doing some editing for me. Well, they were going to be doing some editing for me for the next week or so as like a trial run. A massive thing for me is going to be getting someone that can do the editing for me to take, because realistically, the amount of time that it takes to edit a video, it's not a good use of my time. Like, especially when you think about, like, well, I could be cutting hair in that time, or I could be doing this, or I could be thinking of other creative ideas, or could be doing other things. I should only be doing things which only I should be doing, or that only I can do. And now, after talking to this guy today, he's going to be doing a few of the longer form videos. He's going to test out a few of like the shorter form videos as well. He's going to show me what he can do with them. But hopefully this will be up to a level that will be good enough. I'm sure it will be from everything that we've talked about so far. And having a big weight off my shoulders, if somebody can do all of the editing, that will be, I think, a big game changer for me, of then opening up grow in the future, because at the moment I definitely don't feel like I'm maximising what I'm already doing. I mean, it's Sunday night right now. I've just recording this episode now. What is it at the moment? We are like 7 o'clock at the moment. So this is obviously going to be going out Monday morning. So I'm going to finish recording this. Going to get home, back to Walthamstow, edit this, get this all loaded up, and do it. And it's a quick turnaround of what I'm doing that. So I shouldn't be doing that, but I should be, because it's my job. But I'm looking forward to them being able to record these sort of things, send this off to someone else. They then do it, and then that's their job. I can then focus on other things. And whether focusing on other things means actually having a relaxation and actually having a bit of time off. Because as I'm sure Kasia, my wonderful wife, will attest, is that I don't tend to see an awful lot of her, especially not at the moment, especially over these last couple of months since we got back from the cruise. We haven't seen an awful lot of each other, because I've been in here getting this set up, and it's been a lot of late hours and a lot of long work. And we're actually going away we're flying this Saturday with my parents to Barcelona, and we're actually doing another cruise. So hopefully it won't mean that then at the end of this cruise I'm going to be having to not see Kasia for a long time as well. But I'm sure it won't, because actually and now the things are going to be coming into place. I think as soon as we get this guy that then can edit, well, the way I picture this now, I'm quite excited, because I think first off I wanted someone that was then going to come on board with me full time, edit all of my videos, and they would be here with me as all the time and kind of be support. They would sort of help me get things set up and do it. But actually I think the way that it's going to work, because when I look at my content, YouTube, long form videos, podcasts, and then the shaving ASMR is very different than, say, a 15, 20-second TikTok of what I'm doing. These are different skill sets. And yes, I've sort of done all of this and learned how to do them and work through this skill set. But I think if you want professionals and someone that is really very good at what they do, you need sort of specialities. In the same way that I don't do colour, or I don't do women's longer hair, I do guys' haircuts, because that's what I specialise in. And I think the way that I picture this now is that someone involved with the podcast, that they are my podcast producer. They turn up, they get all the cameras set up, they record it with me, they take all the audio, they take it, they get that edited, they get everything set up for that. And they have a chunk of the pie. Maybe they own 25% of the podcast, and that's how they do it going forward. They specialise in that. Then there's the ASMR stuff, which is the long form content for YouTube. Someone that just I record that, it then gets sent off to them. They edit it, and then some other longer form videos. So there's other ideas which I've got for longer form videos, like more traditional YouTube videos, which I want to do as well. So they edit them. Then these two people, they then get all these content gets sent to someone who is more of like a TikTokified editor, and actually then understands that, you need like the jump cuts jumping in and out. It needs to be sort of like the eyeball changing. You need to sort of really keep the attention, because yes, you need to keep the attention on YouTube, of course, but it's a different type of attention. And when you're watching a YouTube video, you're sort of settling down into it. Whereas obviously when you are watching a TikTok or a reel or a YouTube short, then actually the attention needs to be grabbed instantly. It needs to be hooked. It needs to be going bang, bang, bang. So it is a completely different type of editing skill. And I think if they then do that, so what we've got then is these three editors, which we've got around there. And then actually me having someone here is almost like an assistant, a PA, or maybe actually if they're even like a barber and it's an apprentice, that they are going to be here and delegating with these different editors. That's part of their task. And obviously what one day a week I do training with them, and maybe we actually film that, and then that's different type of content, which is then going to be aimed at barbers. Maybe we set up a different YouTube account of like me showing how we bring on an absolute beginner barber to then being a shop ready, very good barber, and showing that journey. I think that could be a really interesting piece of content, different audience than say what I've already got at the moment, because I think the audience which I have at the moment is very much geared towards the public. It's not aimed at other barbers and hairdressers, which traditionally other barbers and hairdressers do. All of the content which they do is aimed at other barbers and hairdressers. It's very insular. And I think that's part of the reason why mine has been successful so far and has resonated with people, is because that I am aiming it. My thought process the whole time is it's for the other person, and it's for someone that's sat in the chair and them, because I'm not trying to sell education. I'm trying to sell haircuts and hopefully one day products and things like that, and entertaining. And I sort of feel as though it is a much bigger market, general public, than other hairdressers and barbers. So I think that's why mine has worked. but then that's a different audience, and I think that could then be a really interesting, different piece of content. I think that would be something I think actually fascinating for me to do, in terms of forgetting about the content, actually bringing someone on and then molding them and giving them sort of ideas of how I think people should cut hair and what has worked for me and how it's worked for me. Because also someone was messaging me earlier in the week, and they were asking me some advice, again, like what we've talked about in the previous episodes, of what I did of how to become a barber. And I had a few back and forths with them, and they were asking me advice of how to do it. And I still don't know it, but actually if I can go through a process of taking someone on that journey, taking them from a beginner or maybe a transition from a hairdresser to a barber, and showing them that journey of how things happen, that's a different piece of content, that's a different thing. And it's then a great learning for me, because maybe you do know, maybe you don't know, part of this whole thing for me is that eventually there will be shops around London. I will have these own barber shops, and I will need this brilliant team around me. And I have such high standards. I think I have such high standards of people that are going to be working around me and other barbers and hairdressers, because that's kind of what's helped me to be successful with all of this. That part of the reason why I work by myself and have been sort of very singular and insular is because I was managing a shop, and most of the people that were there I didn't really respect, because they didn't hold the same standard as what I have and how I want things to be done and how I want clients to be looked after and how I think people should be looked after and how haircuts should be cut. So if I can start this process of bringing, say, one person on this journey with me, that then they're with me and almost a real wingman or wingwoman, wing person on this journey with me, that then when I open the shops, that they're there in this real stalwart with me, that then when we bring other people on board at these shops, they know, well, they're fully bought into the way that we cut hair, the way that we look after people. And if I can nurture that now, before the shops open, I think that is only going to stand me in good stead. And actually, as I'm thinking about this now, as we're doing this podcast and as I'm talking, that feels like that really makes an awful lot of sense, because actually, yes, they can help me on this journey of being like a PA and doing this stuff, but they're getting something out of it, and also they're getting something out of it long term. I'm also getting something out of it long term, but it's a real teamwork thing. And I think that then when you feel like you can build that team up, there's then things like, oh, actually, well, how about the barbershop which we've got next door where it's just me in there? There's that very easily could be turned into 2 chairs in there. We could get another chair on the other side, a mirror in either corner, and then forgetting about where I cut hair in the middle at the moment, we could actually have a mirror in either side, 2 chairs coming out through there. So there's plenty of space for that. So already, if this person actually gets good, or if they get to a certain standard, but maybe not the same standard of the £60 haircut, but maybe a £20 haircut initially, we could then have them in there. And then actually I'm building this team before I open my own shops, and we have that then actually we could do, that person's there, we could then bring a third person on board, and actually by the time that we do open this shop, we've got a real ready-made team. And I really like the idea, and I thought about this like previously in the past, I very much like the idea of having people on board who are on that same path and that same mindset and mold from the get-go, as opposed to trying to headhunt people and bring them into your ethos and sort of teach them your way, because it's at that point they're already very confident of their own path, of their viewpoints of how they want to be doing things, and to try and then bring them or unwind all of that and then bring it into a new path of how they should be doing it. That's a very hard thing to do. And I think that's part of the reason why I disliked the managing at the last place. Well, a couple of reasons. One, because I wasn't able to pick the staff. So there was a lot of people in there, which I didn't really think should have been in there. But 2, I was the youngest person in there. And I'm like trying to sort of mold them into something of how I think it should be done. But they're all so set in their ways. Who are they to listen to? Why are they going to listen to someone that's like at that point, what was I? I was 28 at that point. If they're sort of 40s and their 50s, why are they going to listen to a 28-year-old person when they've been cutting hair for their entire life? And I've just come along, I've been cutting hair for 3 years, and now I'm trying to tell them how to do it. So I think growing a team from the ground level up and actually getting them in from early doors, really nurturing them, I think is fascinating actually. Now, as I'm thinking about this more and more so, I'm really actually incredibly excited about that, because then also you have that person with you all the time. Maybe they go off to college one day a week and they do the apprenticeship or whatever it is. Or maybe they've done London School of Barber in the 9-week course, which I did, but now they come in here and they do this with me. That one person here with me all the time. And then you've got these 3 other team around you. Then it's like we're actually building like a proper team around us. And then that's how it then really starts turning into something legit. I also really want that person here as like a real sounding board. I would, the amount of times when I'm trying to think of something, I just don't really know what to think, or like I just want to ask a question of like little things like this of like, is that camera at the right height? Do we think that works nicely? Things like that. I just want someone here to be able to sort of just ask those questions to. So if we can get that on board, I think actually now having that chat with that guy about the editing today, and there's a young lad actually who I was talking to earlier in the week who's just edited a couple of videos for me, shorter TikToks. That was great, getting a couple of videos from him. So it's maybe he might be the right person to do short ones, he might not be, but you're trying to work out also, you don't want to spend so much money. You got to do it within budget. And what I would need as well, I think I would love to have like almost like a manager of sorts, or a business manager that then could say, well, okay, well, we've got X amount for this and we've got this. But also I'm in two minds as to whether to be like, well, okay, well, the money which I earn from cutting hair, that's my money. That's the stuff which I do that. And that's what I get paid from. That's where I take my money from. Because I have 2 companies. I have the haircutting company, Elliot Forbes Hair. Then I have the sort of like the online stuff company, which is EF Media. So I could draw the money from that first company, second company, then all of that just gets reinvested back into trying to grow this. Because I fully believe the only reason why this wouldn't work, or this might not work in terms of it growing, is down to me. If you want it to work, it will work. So it might mean a case of like, okay, well, paying these 3 different people, editing, paying the 4th person then in with you all the time, and all of a sudden it might be like, okay, well, that's more money than what's coming in every single month. But I think once you then grow that and build it properly, I think the numbers and the business actually starts to become a lot more of a serious company. Because, okay, I'm calling it a company and a business at the moment. It's me. So it's not really a business at the moment, because if I don't do anything, then the business is non-existent. So it's not a company, it's not a business at the moment. So if we can do that, I think that would be an interesting way. Because also then, if I have all this time back, I can actually be way more prepared for a podcast. I can actually, as opposed to getting these cameras set up, I can actually be fully set up and know exactly what's going to happen with the podcast. I can be really creative. My time can be thought of doing this, and actually then really creating ideas of how the other types of videos that we do, I can then actually really reach out to brands and actually do the stuff of generating more income through the brand deals that way, and opening more doors in that sort of situation. So I think that would be, well, yeah, I mean, obviously I don't know why I'm trying to convince it. It very much makes an awful lot of sense. So this is the next step with that. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but what I'm going to do each episode of the podcast as well. Say if it's I've just bought a sim racing, for like a Formula One sim racing, because as many of you know, I love Formula One. So I'm actually going to have this in this back area here. I've bought the seat, I've bought the steering wheel, I've bought the motor for the steering wheel. I've still got to buy the pedals, still got to buy like a monitor. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for the seat and everything to come, and then I'm going to see how much space we've got for the monitor and actually what sort of screen we need, because I'm not sure how much space we're actually going to have, because after I've recorded this, I'll record this little space there, because it's not enormous, it's not a very big space. So it's each episode, when I have a guest in, I'm going to do like a Top Gear fastest lap style thing. That'll then be like a separate bit of content which goes on to TikTok Reels and to YouTube Shorts as like a what's it called, like a promo for the content, and do it like the fastest lap. We'll have that up on the wall, and then when I'm doing a solo episode, I'll do a different racetrack and get my fastest lap for that. Because I think at the moment, well, this season in Formula One, I think there's 23 races, so that gives me 23 different circuits to be able to then do as well. So over the course of a year, hopefully I won't end up doing 23 races, because that would mean I'm doing 23 solo episodes. But it's at least it gives you then lots of opportunities to be doing that. But I'm really looking forward to getting that set up. And because I'm going to have the video editors, that's going to mean I'm going to have more time and more free time to be able to then do things like that. Going back to then having more free time, I think when I think about me cutting hair, I do really enjoy cutting hair. But I would say, stagnant's the wrong word for it, but I I haven't, because I've been so focusing on the content and so thinking of like getting the podcast sorted out and doing that, that when I go to cutting hair, I'm cutting their hair and doing it, but I'm not looking at content that's inspiring me or educating me, or I'm not looking at content that is um, helping me think of new haircuts or new trends to do. So having more free time is going to allow me to double down on more education. And this is something that Gary Vee pointed out at VCon. He was saying that education is the big unlock, and doubling down on education is so key. And I think that's a very important thing now, because I want to be putting out more haircutting videos in terms of looks that I'm doing. And I also want to be really excited about cutting hair still. And I am excited about cutting hair, but I'm more excited about the person coming in and talking to them. And I want it to really still be about the hair cutting. And I have neglected definitely the haircutting side now for a few years. So I'm actually going to go back and do some education with a few different companies. I'm going to go and see Josh LaMonica at Menspire. I'm going to go and get in touch with Charlie Gray, who I think he's now up in Manchester, and talk to them and maybe do like some online stuff, or maybe do some, I think Charlie has an online platform. Josh is actually not far away, so actually going and doing like a week course with him, something like that. And it's a case of you don't know what you don't know, isn't it? I love cutting hair, and if anything, I don't know when the last time someone came in and I didn't feel 100% confident and sure cutting their hair. Like, that's been years. But maybe when someone comes in, maybe you have, as opposed to just one or two ideas, maybe you have 4 or 5 different ideas of what to do and how to do it slightly differently, so it reinvigorates you a little bit, as opposed to going through the same motion every time. Something that then excites you a little bit more. And if I'm doing more haircutting videos, the audience is very big now. I don't want any, and to be fair, no one is critical of my haircuts, but I want to make sure my haircuts are legit and bang on. And also, the audience is big now. Why aren't there more celebrities or people of influence or influencers that are reaching out to me and would want me to cut their hair? So clearly I'm not doing something that is making them want to come and have that. So let's do something where I double down on the education, make that better. And also, if I'm going to be educating people of like bringing an apprentice on, I need to make sure that I'm shit hot and on top of everything as well. So that's a good way of doubling down with that. And that's something I'm going to absolutely focus on from now on, actually. And it is, I think it's something that needs to happen for sure. Okay, so what I did was I actually asked people to ask me some questions on Instagram, on YouTube. So I've got a few of these questions on here now, so I'm going to answer a couple of them. What do you prefer the most, shaving foam or shaving gel? Now, I don't like shaving foam. It foams up too much. It's all synthetic. It comes out very cold, so it's not really preparing the skin great. When you're actually shaving, it leaves an awful lot of residue, and it's very hard to then grab onto the skin and get a good tension. So actually, I definitely never recommend shaving foam. Shaving foam really is kind of a no-go for me. Shaving gel, I do like. Shaving gel is great if you have weird growth patterns, if your growth pattern goes in lots of different directions through here, if you struggle with redness and if you get spots after you shave, then shaving gel is great, because actually a common problem is people just shave straight down in one direction, and then means that you are causing aggravation because you're actually going against the way the hair wants to grow. If you put the gel on, you can see and you can make more precise strokes, and you can be a lot more precise, and you can then get a much cleaner shave, and you won't get anywhere near as much aggravation. So definitely I would say shaving gel over shaving foam for sure. Best shavette for you? Now, I have 2. So the most common question I get is, what is the brand of the white razor which you use when you're shaving someone? And if I'm being honest, I've got absolutely no idea where this razor even came from. I don't know what the brand of it is. I don't even know how all of a sudden one day it just turned up in my kit and I started using it. And it's really, really light, actually. It's actually, when I first used it, it's actually too light. I just didn't think it had any weight to it. But my favorite razor to shave someone with is actually the feather razor, and it's got this lovely wooden handle. It's the blades which you put in there are super expensive, so I don't use this all the time. But that is a really nice one. The problem why I didn't use that in the videos, or I don't use that in the videos, is actually because it's got a much heavier blade and a heavier weight to it. It doesn't have much of a it doesn't have too much of a crunch when you're shaving someone. Whereas the white one, because it's a bit lighter, and just for some reason, the way that, I don't know, whether it echoes off the blade or off the metal or something, I don't know, but it just sounds so much louder when you're shaving. So obviously doing the videos, which I do, it just made complete sense to use that white one. But I'm sorry to everyone that asked me the question of where I got it from, because I have no idea. I've actually Googled the writing that's on it, and it makes it still no clearer. So that is a mystery for now anyway. If being a barber doesn't work out, what's your plan B and why? Oh my God, put me in a deep question here. Oh, I don't. Well, being a barber absolutely has worked out. It's not something I don't think cannot work out, because once you know how to cut hair, I think that's the beauty of having a trade like being a plumber or being a plasterer or being able to cut hair. Once you know how to cut hair, you're able to go the world over and be able to use this and make money. So I would say if the online stuff doesn't work out, then I feel completely comfortable and confident knowing that I could easily just go back into being able to cut hair absolutely brilliantly and be able to earn a nice living doing that. So I would say there's no plan B for being a barber, but that would be the fallback in case the online stuff doesn't work out. But that's what my dad always says as well. Like, he's always, I don't know if I wouldn't say he's being negative with it, but he is very much of the, don't forget how to cut hair. You got to make sure you keep cutting hair, because like that's the thing that like is always going to stick with you. And I think obviously mums and dads, because they didn't grow up with the online stuff, they're always, I guess, a little bit wary or don't necessarily fully understand all the possibilities and options with the online stuff and how it can really pan out and work out. So I think that's probably been a little bit of nervousness on maybe his part, but that's something that he's always echoed to me, of making sure they don't stop the cutting of hair, because also he repairs and restores cars and he's never stopped doing that. So I guess he looks at it from his point of view of that he's always done that and it's worked out really well for him. So I shouldn't do that, which I can completely understand, and it makes an awful lot of sense, doesn't it? How can I get an appointment? Now, that's a real common question, which I've got a lot at the moment, because it's got so busy. What I've done is I only open the appointments for the following month. I only open it 1 month at a time, and that means I can control it a lot more. So say we're in September at the moment now, the last week of September, I will then open the bookings for all of October. And the good thing for me with that is that I can then work out what I'm going to be doing in October, and I don't have to plan that months in advance. And then if something crops up last minute, I then can't do it because I've already got 10 people booked in on that day and I can't move all of them because the rest of the month is already fully booked as well. So the way to do that is to be on my email newsletter or follow me on Instagram. You'll then get the notifications. You'll get the story saying, right, the bookings are going to open at 7:30 on this day. And it's very much like Glastonbury, where you've got to be there at that time and you've got to get it, or else you won't get an appointment for that next month. The positive is, though, there's always cancellations. There's always people that cancel sort of like on the day or the day before. Not necessarily on the day, because actually they just don't do that because they get charged the full fee. So not many people cancel on the day. But if people cancel the day before, or in that week before. So I'd always check on that week, and if you want something, to maybe check a couple of times during the day, see if anyone cancels. There isn't a system at the moment where you can be notified in case there are cancellations, but I'm looking in ways of doing that. What I had wanted to do, and which I think would be a great idea if I wanted to sort of stay at the same level as where I am now, was actually to release 100 NFTs. And these NFTs, which are, for anyone that doesn't know, a non-fungible token. And basically, non-fungible means it can't be copied. It is that one thing. So when people are sort of screenshotting an NFT and saying, "Oh, now I own it," it's like, well, no, you don't, because it's a contract within that NFT on the blockchain, on the Ethereum blockchain. There is a contract written into that, and every single person can see it and verify, oh, that person owns it. So anyone can go onto. So I've said in the previous episodes that I own, these 4 NFTs. I could just be flexing, but any single person can go onto online and see exactly which ones I own. It's a way of you can't hide. It's a way of absolutely proving it. So what I was going to do was, there was going to be 100 of these NFTs. What you would do would buy one of them, and that would get you access to a haircut, and that would be the only way that you could get a haircut. Obviously, as my name and the value of a haircut with me goes up, the more of the value of one of these NFTs goes up. So somebody might own one of these that bought it for, I don't know, say it was £100 when I launched them. They then still have to buy the haircuts with me every time they come in for a haircut, but that's the only way of doing it. Say over the next 3 years, my name and my following goes up, and the value of a haircut with me goes up even more so. So somebody might end up selling one of those NFTs for £1,000. But the reason why I needed to do only 100, or why 100 was because that's sort of the maximum that I could sort of do. As time has gone by, I actually feel like maybe committing to doing 100 haircuts and having a contract for doing 100 haircuts is maybe not the best thing at the moment, because there's still so much other things that I want to grow and commit with, that then I think maybe actually I will do the NFT project, but maybe this is actually a way of raising the funds for my shops, for the product range, and actually building the capital with that. That then, okay, you buy the NFT, which then is part of the fundraising for the shop. But actually, what you get on the back end of that is haircuts at the shop with not necessarily Elliot, but it's an Elliot affiliated barber, or someone that I've brought on this path with me. So I think that is more the path and the way that it's going to go, because I think that's an exciting way. I really wanted to do this thing with the NFTs for haircuts with me, but it's committing to that many haircuts is not the right thing at the moment, I don't think. How do you clean a double-edged razor in between strokes? Now, a common thing for what a load of people do is sort of they'll fill a sink full of water and then we'll just shake it in there. Now, that's something that's never really worked for me, and I never really understood why people do that too much. I guess it's a great way then of being able to wash the face and just scoop it up and get off there. But for me, I turn the tap on each time, run it underneath there. The tap water comes out really fast, gets all the hairs out there super quick. And because I use oil, it does clog up the blade a little bit. So you have to make sure you use something that is like fast-paced water. Turn it off and then go again. And that's the way I do it. I mean, always make sure that I run it under the hand run it under the water with one hand rather than both hands, or swapping, because I need to always make sure that the other hand is dry so that I can get good tension on the skin when I'm shaving. So just run it under the water, or you can just undo it slightly, and then that will then get rid of it and fully clean all of them out as well. Do you think Charles Leclerc will win a world title with Ferrari? No, I do not think he will win a world title with Ferrari. It feels very reminiscent of Alonso, of Vettel. They haven't got it together since Schumacher left, and since the rest of the Jean Todt, when Ross Brawn left, when they all left, it felt like there was a real change in. And everyone there at Ferrari now I just don't think it's going to happen at all. Like the team which they've got, there's too many mistakes. There's for want of a better way of describing it, I feel like it's not diverse enough. I feel like it's too Italian. When you looked at when when Ferrari was winning with Schumacher, Jean Todt was French. You had Ross Brawn was English. You had Schumacher was German. You had all these other people that were involved, and obviously lots of Italians. But like it was a group that was diverse, that had lots of options and ideas. I think with it being so Italian at the moment, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being Italian, but clearly with their mindset is all very similar. But there's something going wrong, and I think I would be very, very surprised if Leclerc wins at Ferrari. He's tied in for a contract for a long time, but I wouldn't be surprised in the next 3 years if he gets out of that and tries to get somewhere else, because I do not see it happening. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. If any of you know any barbers, or if you know of anyone that is an intern that wants to come potentially work at EF Media or Elliot Forbes Hair Limited, then I would love for you to put them in touch with me, or if you know of anyone, or if that person is you, I'd love to hear more from what you've got to say. I'm going to be putting some tomorrow. Well, as this goes out today, there's going to be some stuff on LinkedIn. I'm going to go and put it on Indeed, and I'm going to I'm actually mega excited for that now. I'm going to get home, get this edited, and I'm going to go and get the job description done tomorrow morning and get that sorted out. So, yeah. Thank you all for watching. Have a brilliant rest of your day. Much love, Elliot.